Ciao and welcome. If you've got an air fryer at home and you've never used it, or you might be looking to buy one for the very first time, hopefully this video will help. There are many questions out there about air fryers. People are asking whether they are healthy, if they're safe, if they change the food structure in any way, and whether they are like a microwave. People absolutely love them. Some people do not trust them, but there is also a large number of people who do not actually really know what they do. I think that a lot of the confusion comes from the name itself, air fryers. In reality, they do not fry anything, frying in the traditional way. There is no oil bath, there is no immersion, there is no bubbling fat. The word fryer is effectively a marketing piece, a very clever one, as it triggers curiosity and people kind of already know what to expect by the word crispiness and browning. And if I wanted to be literal about it, I could call this a small, powerful fan oven. But of course, people would not get very excited about buying a small, powerful fan oven for their worktop, hence the word air fryer. In this video, I'd like to cover three things. First of all, why were they invented? What is the problem that they were supposed to be resolving? Secondly, how do they actually work? What do they look like on the inside? So that you can have a look. And I think it's very powerful because if you can see the inside and how it works, you will understand how they work, and all of a sudden you realize that actually they're very, very safe. And the third thing is where I will be cooking a whole chicken, and I will be doing in the air fryer. Typically whole chickens are cooked in the oven, but I wanted to use this as a real life demonstration because as long as it fits in the tray, and mine does, you'll be able to see exactly how they work and how to make the best use of them. I've got my tools here. I was getting ready to remove the cover and show you what it looks like from the inside. But the design of mine is very, very simple, so I don't need to actually remove the cover, so I can do it here. And I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. But first of all, let me tell you why was it invented. It's not a revolution, by the way, it's a reduction. And what I mean by that is that the technology has existed for a long time, but obviously prices have come down over the last 20 years in terms of electrical appliances considerably, and this is in response of lifestyle. We're all in a hurry and we want to do things quickly, and bearing in mind that this is the size of your oven, all you need to heat is a very small amount of space. So people do not necessarily have a large amount of space in their kitchens anymore. Houses are smaller, especially younger people live in flats. So if you're living on your own, or if it's two of you or even three of you, this is most probably more often than not good enough. And so it responds to lack of space. You can keep it on your worktop, no problem at all, without needing an oven if what you eat and what you cook is big enough. But also energy cost. Due to the fact that an air fryer only heats a small amount of space, it will reach temperature considerably quicker than a normal oven, because obviously you're not heating a considerable large amount of space, and it's more effective. So there is also an health side to it, because it only requires a little oil for it to cook, and the oil is not there for frying purposes, it's just to flavorize the food and give it the aroma. How does it work? Very, very simple. If you've got a fan oven at home, you will see that in front of you there is a fan, and next to the fan there is a heat element, a bit like what you might have in your kettle or under your grill. And I'll show it to you here. This is the grill. This becomes very hot, and if you look here, if I get my screwdriver and I'll show you, there's a little fan in there, and as soon as you turn the air fryer on, the fan will go around and will start pumping air through that coil, which will get really, really hot, and it will go immediately inside the little drawer, and within a few seconds it will reach temperature 180, 200 degrees, whatever it is that you are here cooking, depending on your food, of course. I'll give you an analogy. Imagine you got a hairdryer, and in my office here, in my kitchen, if I turn it on, it will take a long, long time, I most probably never get there, before I heat my office. But if I get the same hairdryer and I put it inside a closed shoebox, within seconds the shoebox would become very, very hot. And that is exactly the same what this air fryer does. If you go a large oven, it will take 15, 10, 5 minutes, depending on how powerful your oven is to reach temperature, but also because it's large, it will require more energy for it to keep to temperature. Whereas in a small area, obviously your temperature is considerably stable and you will use less energy. However, there are some differences, of course, because if you're using a normal conventional oven, you put your chicken inside it and you can walk away, an hour and a half later it's cooked. With an air fryer there is a different methodology, as the heat will come from the top, from this vent up here, and it will be pushing down. So what it means is that when I will place my chicken inside my drawer, the air will be pushed down and it will be cooking the top half of the chicken. And you will see that as and when I cook it, this will become crispy very, very quickly. The underneath will obviously get also white in color because it will be at a temperature of 200 degrees, but it will not have the crispiness that is on the top. So when you're cooking something in an air fryer, you must make sure that you turn it, regardless of what you're cooking. It could be chicken, could be a piece of meat, could be vegetables, because otherwise they will only cook on the top. Also, you've got this little tray underneath. If I remove it, you can see what it does. Has got 4 little feet, and they create a space between the bottom of the drawer and the top of your food. This is to allow the hot air to circulate, so that it provides a degree of moisture and cooking at the bottom of whatever you're cooking. So very, very important. But as I said, you have to turn your food. Another important element when you're cooking on an air fryer is not to pile your food, for that very reason. Sometimes I've seen people putting lots of vegetables and potatoes and all sorts, almost like what you would do if you were using an oven. And inevitably, you're only going to cook what is on the top. What is underneath, it will not get cooked. And it's actually a very inefficient way to use your air fryer. So always ensure that you do not pile your food, especially vegetables and so on. Or even if you're cooking, for example, chicken drumsticks or wings or other things, make sure that you've got one layer or a little bit of an overlap, and then you toss it every so often. Otherwise it will not be very efficient. If you've got something big, use the oven. That is what the oven is for. If you got something small, if you're cooking for 1 person, 2 people, or even 3 people, I think air fryers are brilliant, because they're very economic. They get to temperature immediately, and they cook the food crispier than an oven, because the air is considerably hotter but also faster, if you see what I mean. So it's not hotter, it's faster. It moves considerably faster. The temperature is the same, but because it moves faster, it gives you more of a crispiness, and that's why you don't need a lot of oil. So having established that there is no radiation or microwaves or any magic going on with an air fryer, I'm going to give you a real life demonstration of my dinner for tonight. And I'm going to cook the whole chicken. Arguably, if I wasn't doing this video, a more efficient way for me to cook this would have been to cut it in half and still cook in half in the drawer. But I wanted to show you that you can still cook a whole chicken and get a really good outcome. So that demonstrates the point I was making earlier. And my recipe today is going to be very simple. I've just chopped a little rosemary. Here I've got a couple of cloves of garlic, which I will be crushing using a garlic crusher, just like this. And just like you would do if you were cooking a chicken in the oven, a little salt and some pepper and the magic olive oil. I did say not a lot of olive oil, as that is the feature of the air fryer, so I'll pour in about 1 teaspoon. I'll mix everything together. You can see that there isn't a lot of oil in there, and I like to pick it up, and here's my chicken, and I'll rub it all over it. Turn it around and do the back. And of course you can marinate it with any spices you like. In the past I've also placed a whole lemon inside or half a lemon. Sometimes I put an onion or a potato to give even more moisture. Entirely up to you. Personal choices, as I always say. Okay, so ensure that your chicken is no bigger than the drawer of your air fryer, and I'll place it inside, and you can see that mine fits in perfectly. So I'll put it inside here, and now it's a matter of adjusting the temperature and the time, of course. So every air fryer has got a different design. In my case there is a little button over here, and defaults to 10, which is 10 minutes, 180 degrees. I'll be cooking mine at 200 degrees, and I will cook the chicken entirely for about an hour. It's only a small chicken, but I will want to turn it 2 or 3 times. So I'll go for 15 minutes initially and see what it looks like, especially because I want to show you what it looks like on the top. And then I'll press go. So I'll see you in 15. And that is the first cycle completed. I just wanted to show you what I am trying to demonstrate, and this is exactly it. Actually, I will remove it from the tray for a moment so that you can see better, assuming I don't spoil it. There it goes. So the point I was making is that the top becomes of a beautiful and brown color, but if I turn it around you can see that the bottom is still pink, because obviously it only cooks from the top. So this is not a very efficient way to cook a whole chicken in the air fryer, but I wanted to demonstrate it to you. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to cut it in half, which is what I would have done right from the word go, and then I'll complete the cooking by halving it. And actually it's very useful because you can see that it's already beginning to cook on the top here, the breast, here is pink, and here is pink. If I just chop the other half, and I'll show you the underneath. It might have only been in the air fryer for 15 minutes, but the smell is really good already. So if I just turn it around, and you can see that here is white, here is still pretty much the same as it was when I started it. So here is my tray once again, and this time, as the top has already cooked for 15 minutes, I'm going to lay it like this, and I'll do the other half the same way, and in 15 minutes time I'll turn it around again, and I'll do it 3 or 4 times until it's totally cooked. But it will go inside the tray, and in for another 15 minutes at 200 degrees I did say. Come on, switch, there it goes. Now let me show you something else. I just turned this on. I've opened the door, you cannot see it, but one of the features of air fryers is that they draw in air to pump it in the chicken, in this case, and also that air needs to go out somewhere. And there is a bubble of fan, of course, and if I just turn it around, there is generally is in the back, there is a little vent where the air comes out from. Now a lot depends on where you keep your air fryer. In our case we keep it in a utility room next to the fridge, and it's not a very big room, and even in this room, which is 4 meters square, it does actually create a lot of steam, and the smell gets in your clothes if you're not careful. So I would suggest that you open a window when you're using an air fryer, and then the air goes outside and it doesn't create the smell which stays in your house, especially if you go a small confined area, or open the door like I've done today. So that is a very useful tip. But if you're cold, you can always stand behind and warm up. So I'll see you again in 14 minutes and I'll show you what it looks like, and then we can take it to the end. One more minute. I have to say, this is a bit like watching paint dry. Normally, if I would be cooking in a house, I would be doing something else, but I'm in my little kitchen outside and it's pouring down with rain, and I do not fancy really going indoors at the moment. So I've been watching the dial, but only 40 seconds to go, and I can show you what it looks like. Although I have to be honest, I've always loved seeing how things work, and I love showing people as well. I made a little video the other day showing how the mocha coffee pot works, and I've actually been delighted by how well it's been received. So if there is anything else you'd like me to show you, maybe the microwave, you'd like to see how that works, and very happy to do that. Just let me know. So 30 minutes in, and this is beginning to take a beautiful shape. So as I said, I like to turn my chicken 4 times whenever I cook it on the air fryer. And I think the more often you turn your food, the better, because you are applying a more uniform way of cooking. You can see that there is some blood in there. Obviously that side has not been exposed to any heat. So in it goes again for a further 15 minutes, and then I'll turn it again, and then it will be done. But I'm not going to show you that, I promise. So I'll see you in about 30 minutes when my cooking cycle is finished, and hopefully the chicken will be ready. So see you then. Nearly there. So it's quicker than an oven and more efficient in terms of energy consumption. Obviously the only restriction is that you cannot do as much as in an oven. Although nowadays you can buy air fryers which are called 2 drawers. So there's a point where you need to be careful that you might need an oven instead of a big air fryer. But let me show you an hour exact. And by the way, if you do buy one, you will find that more often than not the instruction manual contains also recipes and amount of time that your food need to cook for. And some air fryers actually have got chicken, fish, meat, vegetables, so you just click it and it is all pre-programmed in terms of the amount of time needed. So this is well cooked, 1 hour exactly, and it's beautiful and crisp. I'm sure you can hear it. I'll just put it here. It's wonderful. And this is the size chicken that obviously I cook for Julie and I, and some will be kept for tomorrow cold. But more importantly, let me show you what it looks like now on the inside. And you can see that there is no blood, it's all cooked to perfection. And let me just find the breast, which is the area where you would expect it to be a good taste. And I'll just slice some meat, and there it is. Look, it's perfect. I'll just test some, and I'll let you know if it is as expected. Hot but delicious. One thing to do with mine, by the way, after it's cooked, little tip there, I always put a little bit more olive oil, and it's just a Sicilian thing, and it adds a little bit of moisture, and olive oil, it got so much more flavor. I think it's a shame not to. And if I try again now, take 2, it elevates the taste noticeably, honestly. Now let's talk about cleaning the air fryer, which is actually one of the most important things that unfortunately lots of people do not do very well. And people think that air fryer can be dangerous and they can cause fire. Air fryer do not cause fire. Negligence and not cleaning them properly is what cause fire. And if you think about it, you got fat, and this fat is in very close proximity to the element. So first of all, periodically, not every time you use it, once it's cooled down, just go inside your air fryer. At the moment it's hot and I'm not going to touch it, and clean the areas with a damp cloth where there is fat splattered about, and then that will prevent that fat from catching fire. And this is very critical that it's properly cleaned. So there is a little bit of fat left from the chicken, and you can see the benefit of this, of course, because the chicken will sit on the tray and it will not cook in its own fat. But do not pour it down your sink, otherwise you will end up creating a problem in your drains. So I'll go and dispose of this, and then I'll show you how to properly clean it so that you will be safe and your air fryer will last forever. And for that purpose, the best tip I can give you is not to leave it too long before you clean it. Especially if you cooked something like meat and there is a release of fat. Do not allow the fat to go hard, because it's going to be more difficult for you to wash it. And if you wash it while it's warm, it's considerably easier to clean, just like a normal tray when you are baking or cooking something in the oven. Now, this is pretty clean. Do not put it in the dishwasher, by the way. And I put this back inside. There is still some residual heat left in my air fryer, and another benefit of doing it straight away. And if I place that inside now, within a couple of minutes, the heat will continue dissipating from the top of the element, and it will dry my drawer. Sometimes I don't do it straight away, so I'll just turn it on for 1 minute, and the air will quickly dry. And it's important because if you're not going to be using your air fryer from 1 week to the next, and you leave this damp or wet or with water in there, it will go smelly, and we don't want that. So that is tip number 1. Periodically, what we do, though, as mentioned before, I give it a clean near the fan, but also the internal mechanism gets a little bit smelly, and I place a little drop of vinegar with a little amount of water at the bottom of the tray, and I place it inside and I turn it on for about a couple of minutes, and the vinegar will effectively clean the inside of my air fryer, and it will make a little bit better. Or you can put also lemon, if you like, some lemon juice, or if you got half a lemon left over and you want to put that inside, something that has got a high degree of acidity, and it refreshes your air dryer, and making sure that it's nice and clean and it will last forever. The last thing I wanted to say is what it is an oven. What it is not is magic. You don't need to be afraid. It's just no different than using a normal conventional oven at home, but smaller, and it cooks differently. The only difference is that you need to turn your food 2 or 3 times. If I cook vegetables, I only do the once, and it's a real good piece of kit. And hopefully you have, I'm going to disconnect it, enjoy the video, and you might have learned something, and if you have, I am delighted. But the demonstration was aimed to demystify something, which I think is often the case, that if we do not understand something, we think there's something wrong with it. But actually, the moment you understand how something works, all of a sudden the mysteries go out of the window, and you can cook with more assurance and confidence. Well, let me know if you've enjoyed the video, or if you've got any questions, and I'll be delighted to answer them. Thank you for watching, and buon appetito. Ciao ciao.